Okay, so welcome to your first online Western Africa history lesson. So we are still going to finish up Western Africa in the next few days. And there's just a few things that I wanted to talk about. And you might be asking, like, why is Miss Gamlin starting with a baobab tree? And honestly, it's just because it's one of the coolest, strangest trees that I think exist. I love the fact that they're thousands of years old, um, and they can hold thousands or hundreds of gallons of water. All right. It's been like the fruit of it is actually the size of like a green football, and it's oftentimes called like monkey bread because monkeys will actually eat it. And we actually use what's inside of that to make cream of tartar. And I don't know if there's any bakers out there, but that's actually kind of like a leavening agent for baking where you can typically use it. You don't use a ton. It's normally in a small jar, and it is literally something that you would use if you were a baker. The seeds are also used for vegetable oil, and they can be grilled or eaten. And this is something that is very rare in the United States. It's kind of like Joshua tree for us down here in Southern California. So the baobab tree is actually something that you might see sometimes in Western Africa. I also bring it up because I used to go to this restaurant called the Baobab Cafe, and I thought that was really interesting. So this is a little bit of history of the baobab. This is what the seeds look like, and that's the inside of the seed. You can see the white parts are what you would actually use the cream of tartar for, or some other medicinal. The leaves are also used for medicinal purposes. So that's just a little bit of random knowledge, not necessarily Western African history, but just interesting about what's going on in things that are involved in our world. There's also another cool baobab tree. I don't know if that picture on the left with the toilet is correct, but if so, it's still kind of cool. And then I just thought that was a beautiful picture on the right of just kind of this alley of baobabs that you walk through. It just seems very peaceful and beautiful. So we're actually going to be talking about the Mali Empire and where that actually started from. The Mali Empire is going to be bigger than the Ghana Empire, and the Mali Empire will start seeing start coming about around the 13th century. This is going to be when Ghana is actually been dealing with desertification and other issues, and so obviously it leaves Ghana open for somebody else to come in and make something of it. So the first person we're going to talk about is the legend of Sunjata or Sundiata. Uh, I've seen his name spelled a couple different ways other than this as well, but he is going to be the man who is credited with establishing the Mali Empire. And he has an incredibly cool story behind him. And it's one of those things of, is this a story of legend or is this true? So Sunjata here was born to a woman named Sogalang Konde. She was the sister of the Mansa. Mansa is just another word of saying king. So when you say Mansa Musa, you're basically saying King Musa. She was supposed to be this hunchback woman who had these frightening sorceress powers. So I feel like it's like a Disney film waiting to be written. The other wives were apparently very jealous of the prophecy that she was going to have this great son, but it ended up being a true prophecy because she actually gave birth to Sunjata, who himself was born crippled, and it took him a while to learn to walk. His name actually is a derivative of her name, which was Sogalon, and Jara, which is lion. So it's later sworn. You can kind of see how they put those two words together of Sun and Jara and Sunjata come together. So it's kind of like the lion of this woman. So that's kind of his cool little background story. He's going to rule Mali quite well for 25 years. And then eventually it's going to go to his his son. His son is going to take power. There's going to be a little scuffling for him to take power, but eventually he will rule. And under Mansa Musa, his age is going to be known as the Golden Age of Mali. And we've already watched that little video about how he went on Hajj to Mecca and basically was throwing gold around. He had so much money. And of course, people were amazed that there was such a wealthy, rich African kingdom. He has 24 other kings reporting to him, and they're all subordinate to him. And then he also had a person they would call the Jelly. And I may not be pronouncing that correctly. I actually don't know. So I'm just going to say Jelly. And he is the person, like the king will say something, and then the Jelly announces it. Like he'll say, "This is what the king said. I am the person who will speak for the king." So that's kind of a cool that, like, I feel like that's also something you see in a Disney movie. I feel like actually this is a Disney movie waiting to happen. That's just my personal opinion. So he was the one who went on the Incredible Hajj. The Incredible Hajj took over a year. He went with 1,000 people. Some of his people actually died on the way back from Mecca because from Mecca to Cairo was very difficult. So he lost about a third of his caravan. He took his first wife, and she had hundreds of servants and slaves with her. He took merchants, slaves, soldiers to protect the caravan. He had 80 loads of gold dust, which, of course, when he's distributing that through other places who don't have that much gold, he's going to cause inflation. And inflation is just when everybody has so much money that the price of goods skyrockets because everybody has so much money. So, of course, they can ask for more. When he ended up heading to Cairo, he camped near the Great Pyramids. He didn't want to meet with the Sultan there because the protocol was that when he meets the Sultan, he had to bow down and kiss the ground to pay respect. So eventually he decides how he's going to meet the Sultan and this is Mansa Musa, by the way. Mansa Musa decides, I will meet the Sultan, and he bowed. But then he claimed, I will not bow down and kiss the earth because the only person I bow down to would be God. So he did give him some sort of respect, but also said, I respond only to God because Mansa Musa is on Hajj, and we know that that means he is now a Muslim. And this what allows the Muslim religion or the Islamic religion to influence Western Africa is during this Mali time period heavily. And so he will set up schools. If I go back here, he set up schools in Timbuktu. They emphasize Arabic and the importance of that. And moving on, this is just a little map, if you can see, of Mansa Musa, his route to Mecca. He is the dotted line. If you can follow the dotted line right there, that is from him all the way to Mecca and back. All of these black lines, the straight black lines, if you're reading the legend correctly, are going to be the different trade routes, just north and south. And you can see where the pickaxes are. That's the salt mine. That's what had you guys pretend that you were in the salt mine. And then, of course, down here a little bit further in the northern part of Western Africa, that's the gold mine, and that's where some of you were gold miners. But the dotted route is the route for Mansa Musa's Hajj. So what is eventually going to lead to the decline of Mali? Well, once Mansa Musa dies, he has a son, Magan, who takes over. And Magan actually doesn't do a very good job, and I actually believe he only holds the position for about 4 years, give or take. I could be wrong on that. And then it goes to another ruler, Mansa Suleiman, who will do okay. He's not well liked, but he's effective. And you can be an effective leader and not be well liked, but it does make it harder for people to really respect you. And then once you're, this is what we talked about all of last year. Once you're struggling for power about who's going to take over, that's going to lead you open to other people, other stronger tribes who have been united in the meantime, and they're going to come in and establish their own empire. So then you're going to have the Songhai Empire, and this is the largest of the 3 empires of Ghani, Mali, and Songhai. You can see it encompasses much of the same area, only obviously a little bit more. The Songhai Empire, I won't really focus on that much. It's known as essentially for Timbuktu, which is still I believe it's a UNESCO heritage site today. And people still go there. It's more it's a smaller city. It's still a city for Islamic learning. People still go more for tourism. I guess the best time to go, in case you ever want to go to Timbuktu, is more during the winter season because it gets so hot there during the day in the summer that it's just not manageable. So like I said, Timbuktu is a place. It does exist. I know you probably said, I'm going to kick you all the way out to Timbuktu. That's a place. It just happens to be in Western Africa. And then the last little tidbit, which, I don't really think I'm going to test you on, but I just thought some of this stuff that I come across is actually really interesting. These are kola nuts. These are edible seeds. You guys can read. They're bitter and they contain caffeine. So some people will just be chewing on them. So sometimes if you see pictures of people with just red teeth, they're probably just chewing on straight up caffeine. It's also sometimes can be used for flavoring soda, which would also show you why you would have maybe more of that staining quality to the teeth. And that's also found in Western Africa. And really nothing else I wanted to say about that. But like sometimes I know you've seen pictures of people chewing on stuff. This is not everything that people are chewing on, but this is something that will actually sometimes stain their teeth. So it would be like, you drinking a Coke or something like that. Here's a few beautiful pictures of Timbuktu. You can see, obviously, that it's very much in a dry area. You can see that things are going to be made out of sandstone and different things like that. And that is actually my Western Africa, because we're going to jump into Japan starting next week. So we're just going to wrap up a few things here and stay tuned to Google Classroom. Thank you, guys.